Hi, I'm Jay from Real Street Performance. I'm here with Pedro from Baltic Supra.
That's me.
And we are ready to take his engine apart again.
Right, it's family. I can't stay away from this place. These guys are all now like family. I see them more than I see some of my own relatives. We're here again. My right foot, a little too aggressive, and I hurt something.
Yeah, so 88 millimeter, 150 shot, 59 pounds of boost. There was copious amounts of water exiting the turbocharger.
Like a pressure washer.
Yeah, basically a big steam chimney. So we're gonna take the engine apart and see how the water is getting into the cylinder and whether it be on the head gasket level or lower, maybe it's got a broken sleeve. So OEM Toyota block, they have shown to be breakable in the bores. So we're gonna take a look at that, and or we've got a problem at the top of the cylinder at the head gasket. So we're gonna dig in and show you guys what we find.
This problem it's a new for us. My Real Street motors have always been extremely durable. Whatever I put them through, they take. I just feel like at this point, I'm pushing the factory block to its absolute limit. And Jay told me initially, this is like a max effort build for the factory block. The factory block is the limiting factor. I went 8th mile racing the days after World Cup. I raced at our World Cup, ran a personal best, 7:34 at 193, being very conservative down low. I get to Orlando Speed World for a radial 8th mile race, and the freaking track was hooking. So I started leaning on it and leaning on it. Before to go into that event, Jay, in Orlando, the fastest I had ever gone was a 480, 481, 482 in the 8th mile. We get there and go 79, a 64, a 61, a 56. The car was just taking it all, or the track was. And I'm very curious to see what went wrong or what I broke. It's got nothing to do with the components we're using. It's just, I want to say the factory block is, I'm pushing it too far. Hypothetically speaking, if the block is damaged,
Yeah.
don't mind the white fudge, the white chocolate I have
That's
going on
just
here.
water.
Yeah. If the block is damaged, obviously we need a new block.
Yep.
I'm just thinking the cost of freaking, even if I can get a block for free, like I can source another GE block, which is what this is. I bring you another GE block. The machining to get the billet main caps to get in there, the line honing, the front plate, I need a water pump, I need a...
Get to the end. Get to the end of your thought.
I need a billet block.
You need a billet block. I am hopeful that that Dart pulls it off and gets us a cast iron block that is worthy, right, and an improvement over the factory Toyota block. I'm excited if that's to happen.
I would have been a perfect
for
candidate
now,
for that, but that's a year away.
At least. Easy, at least.
I don't got a year.
So, you know, the billet's tough because it's low production stuff. It's pricey. It's onesie, twosie engine stuff. But they're proven to be reliable and proven to be more cost effective than you think, because when you initially look at that $10,000 cost, right? Well, when you look at what it costs to go through this, like,
my fear is having to do this. Like at this point,
yeah, if
I've never visited
again,
you this often.
right?
Like at this point, I know I'm pushing this factory block to its absolute limit. And if this one is broken and I get another one,
and it
I'm
breaks
not
again,
going to turn it down anymore.
No, you're there, man. I try to, you know, when you were here last, I said like, hey, got one right over there on the shelf, ready to go. Like that's the move, because then it puts you in a situation where you're not experiencing the downtime, the frequency of downtime in having to work on the car. I mean, how many hours does it take you to take this engine out?
A day, a full day.
And how many to put it back in?
About a day and a half or so.
Okay.
I do it by myself. Me and my 5-year-old daughter. Just us two, man.
Well, I'd rather see you guys at the park than
I agree.
than chugging through that. So it does make for a
There's already some decent rust.
oh yeah,
Marks on
that'll
there.
clean off. This water corrosion is not your friend.
Yikes. This happened 9 days ago. Wow. I dumped all that oil out, put fresh oil in it, started it back up. I guess there's still a decent amount of moisture still in
But
it.
you have to run it. You'd have to run it for a good amount of time to get all that water out of the top of the engine.
I ran it down the quarter mile. So
Well,
I
you have to get it-
texted Jay after I damaged it. I'm like, Jay, I'm the second qualifier. I'm still in competition. I was like, if I decide to race it, what do you think could happen? He's like, I wouldn't do it. He said you could damage the head. I'm like, yeah, well, it's just so hard to turn down a race. Like once you're at the track, yeah, I didn't want to incur any further expenses, but damn it, I just wanted to race. So I went up there, raced some more. Those tiny little head studs.
Tiny little.
I was
head
watching billet block videos and just like this long.
studs. Yeah.
It's the direction we got to go.
These are the ARP 625
Yeah.
space age material. Like it's pretty killer.
Yeah. I mean, we've been running that in this car for a long time. And since we've been running this, the fire ring copper gasket, I've never so far damaged a gasket or lifted the head.
No, they'll make coolant pressure when they start to leak, but that's about. Normally they don't. They give you some warning time, but you don't log coolant pressure, do you?
No.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, that's a good one.
Oh no. That's pretty rough. That's bad.
It's broken.
Yeah, it's broken. It's bad. It's all the way down too.
Feel that ledge. That's a lot of movement.
Wow. So we got a cracked sleeve and a piston with acne.
Oh, something went through it. What's that?
So I think this was, when we first put it together, I cleaned the intercooler, all the pipes, the intake, the exhaust, like everything was clean. But when we first put it back together, went on the dyno, there was like a misfire. We checked the plugs and the back plug, the strap was like shut. Like it was something had pushed it, it seemed like.
Something
and there was a
foreign.
little scar in it too. So
This is cool, and it's nobody's fault. And this is not cool, and it's somebody's fault. And this happens, man, that is such a bummer because if you are like taking your engine apart because you've broken it, it is my recommendation that as you take those components off the vehicle, you clean and inspect them right then. Because if 6 months goes by before you put the car back together and you forget that there's a chunk of a piston laying in your intake manifold or in the bottom of a charge pipe, and you start up your fresh engine and you do this to it, you're right back in the same spot. So as you take an engine apart that is put metal components into the inlet track, you want to make sure that you clean all that stuff out right then and there, and that you're paying really close attention to what where everything is laid out. Make sure nothing foreign can get in any pipe or intake manifold or exhaust manifold or anything, because this is 100% preventable.
even this one's got some scarring on it as well.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I cleaned the intercooler, I took it out of the car, stood it up straight, ran, like flooded it with water, capped the bottom, flooded it with water, cycle it, I blew it with air.
Yeah, it's just when you're pounding on it like that, when you get that, like if the top ring is not pinched, Because if you pound the stuff,
It was like that and it ran hard.
well,
as like that.
right. If you pound the stuff in there and you pinch the top ring, it's game over. If you pound the stuff in there and it doesn't pinch the top ring, it may still collapse the skirt, because when the piston comes up, where it would normally have that free space to rock, if you've got particulate jammed in there, it just jams that up against the skirts and you can push the skirts of the piston in.
Right.
So it's an avoidable problem. The main point is it's an avoidable problem, but you want to be really, really careful with all of the open components on the, anywhere from your air cleaner right up to the port of the cylinder head. Make sure there's no foreign material in there, because you'll get that going on.
Did this damage the head at all?
Yeah.
Like any valves? Oh yeah.
You may not have got the valves, but it beats the chamber up,
Yeah, it
and you
is.
can't fix it. It's just damaged now. So this was a brand new cylinder head.
But how was I supposed to find that? It wasn't in an intercooler, wasn't in any of the charge
Hey man,
pipes.
if I was the mechanic
intake,
working on your
header.
car, you wouldn't care. I wouldn't be able to say that to you and hold a straight face. If you were my customer and I put your car together and something foreign got in the cylinder, and I said,
You're to
how
blame.
am I supposed to find it? Like,
Yeah.
no one
Yeah,
cares.
yeah.
You have to treat it as critically important as it is to avoid that type of problem. That's all. I mean, I'm not like yelling at you, but that's a preventable thing.
That one's fine.
Yeah, it's just damage that you could avoid, that's all.
And you said that can be cleaned up or nothing?
You take off the high spots and you let the low spots be the low spots.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. If it were, guys with different castings or billets and things, they'll weld up chambers. But it's been my experience that when you weld an OEM casting, it gets weaker. And that's fine if it's like a Camry that you just need to drive for 100,000 miles.
Right.
But when it's a high horsepower engine and you're dealing with a lot of heat, you don't want welding on the cylinder head if you can avoid it.
Oh, this is the messy part. Oh no, it's just water this time.
It's just water out of the oil pan this time.
Yeah.
The radiator was empty. We just had to drain the water out of the engine.
Pretty much.
Oil pan.
Bright side is my nice Billet BC 3.2 crank is intact.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you'll have a hard time tearing that up to drain some of that awesomeness out.
Looks like paint.
Yeah.
When you open a can of old paint
Yeah.
before you stir it, it looks like that. When I was at the racetrack, I told Jay, I was like, "Hey Jay, do you think by chance, for the sake of video views, I'll tear it apart here at the racetrack." I was already in Orlando, which is where we're at now, Roastery Performance. I said, "I'll bring you the car. You pull the head real quick. Chances are the head gasket will change it, and I go racing the following weekend." And he told me those small displacement motors, or Jay's like, "Man," he's like, it could be more than that. Bring me the whole engine, and let's tear into it." And yeah, it would have just caused this extra work.
No, anytime you have a small engine, like my buddy works on a car with a billet Hemi, and they just work on it. Like they'll just tear it apart and put it back together at the track. Like it's not a big deal. But it's a very powerful engine, but it's a very big engine that the power is, the stress on the components. It's not like these things making 8-9 horsepower per inch. Like When they tear up, they tear up. Look at the bearing wear, you know, the timing mark is not off. It's not like you're over timed, but the wear on the rod bearing for the length of time it's been used, like the oil film isn't strong enough. Like the pump volume, the liquid oil that hasn't been all frappuccinoed up, like when it goes into the dry sump tank and it gets to calm down and become liquid oil again before the pump picks it back up, like it's better oil, it's a better quality oil. So if you go to an aluminum block and you experience more growth in the mains, and you're not able to maintain as much pressure as you currently have, then you're going to experience more bearing wear. And then you move your problem.
The mains are larger with an aluminum
The mains
block.
aluminum grows more.
Okay, right, yeah.
Like this rod will be 2.5 thousandths vertical oil clearance at room temperature. And then you will lay it out in the sun and it'll pick up 1 thousandths. You'll put it in the oven and it'll pick up another thousandths. So then your oil clearance is 4.5 thousandths. Well, that's more of an oil bath that's happening and more oil's flowing, but the film strength, it becomes more important because if the wet sump pump is beating the oil up and the oil isn't just straight liquid, if it's got any foam in it or it's aerated, then you're pumping that stuff back up the crank and it's just not gonna, the bearings are not gonna live as well. The bearings in the janitor look quite a bit better than this. And I don't think that it's anything other than the dry sump.
Got it.
I never broke one like this, so I'm not saying that we couldn't put another stock block back in it and be more careful with it, because when you called me, you said, oops, I made a mistake. You know, I wanted to have the nitrous turned off. I was just using the nitrous to spool, and I left the nitrous on. So if you go back and you're more careful with the nitrous, you should be able to at least get to the point that I was at with the stock block. So you've got some things to think about. You know, I'm not trying to force your hand. I'm just trying to keep you having fun. The mains look better than the rods. So Pedro needs to go home and think about whether or not he's going to move to a billet block and a dry sump, or put another stock block in it and try to be more careful, or maybe get away with what I was able to get away with, or roll the dice again. But you're at this point where another prepped stock block is X amount of money, and to move to a billet block that won't have this problem is probably 2.5 times that. So by the time you factor in what it costs to do what he just did, which was take the car out and race it twice, and he's right back out here with a broken engine again. So that gets expensive and tiring pretty quickly. So we have to do it in a manner that's gonna promote more longevity and have parts that are better selected for the power level. But these are decisions that ultimately are his to make, because, you know, everyone's working within some semblance of a budget.
Well said. And with that being said, I have taken my time to decide. I'm going to be taking my talents to billet block world. I'm not going to think about nothing else. I want to race. I get it. Man. I get it. I want to race. And yeah, my fear is, just like you said, I go down this path again, which has been awesome to me. I've ran this for a very long time, but I know for a fact there is no slowing me back down. I want to continue to, I want to go back to right where I left off and beyond.
Yeah.
So if I invest I know you said it's 2.5 times more, which sounds about right to go billet now, but my fear is I invest in this now and I get enjoyment for another even 6 months, which sounds great. I'm gonna eventually crack a sleeve again. I'm gonna eventually crack the block again. No matter how safe I am with the tuning or how safe I am with the nitrous, like it's gonna come a point where there's only so much this factory component can hold power-wise, and with the Pro Mod Turbo, I could very easily exceed that.
Yeah.
So my fear is continuing to invest in something that I've realized I've outgrown, and especially with the history that I have. Like I push all my factory Toyota components for a long time. I pushed my factory Toyota auto transmission as far as a 750, but anything past that, I was hurting them. I pushed my factory Toyota rear ends 850 on the 200 millimeter diff and 750 on the 750 on the 220, the 6-speed Supra diff, and I started hurting that. I feel like I'm now at a point where the blocks surpass what the auto trans can do. The blocks surpass what the rear ends are able to keep up with. But now I'm gonna start breaking this, and I already broke those parts repetitively, like over and over again. I don't want to have to do that with this, and it's a lot of labor, a lot of money, a lot of downtime to eventually end up in that direction regardless.
Yeah. No,
so I'm gonna talk to my friend American Express.
Yeah.
And,
Uncle Chase. Call Uncle Chase up. Maybe see if you can discover. Maybe you'll discover on this one.
Yes.
Are you discovering right now?
Yes.
They got that cash back program. You know, you may just want to head that way.
It is what it is, man. I love this too much. My family loves this too much. We've been enjoying going to the track. And I just, listen, I still got this tickling sensation in my testicles from that 450 run.
Oh, it's the worst. You'll get like this, in the midst of a failure like this, you'll also experience enough of a carrot dangling that the pain of the situation you're in is quickly overshadowed by the potential of what could be, and you just keep doing the thing.
Well said. So I've made up my mind. We have to.
Okay.
Black Friday's around the corner, and I'll ring you back for Black Friday to get the best possible deals.
Well, we have one sitting here that's it's probably got half of his name on it already. So we'll just need to head in that direction. And there's a fair share of reusable parts here on the bench, and this just isn't going to be one of them. This is now junk, and we'll move on, and it'll be all right.
Jay,
Pedro.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
This time next week, I'll be here picking this up. Later, guys.